Hey everyone, welcome to the Landlord Studio Community Stories. I'm one of the co-founders, Logan Ransley, and in today's episode, we're going to be interviewing one of our community members, Andrew James. How's everything going for you, Andrew?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Awesome. So what I wanted to do today was just go through a little bit about, I guess, your rental journey and learn a little bit about how you got started, the challenges that you've faced, and where you're going from here. So to jump into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess how you got into rental property investing to start with?
Sort of by accident, really. I bought a property behind my sister's house, thinking that I would move into it. Then rented it straight away because it wasn't where I wanted to live at that point in time. Saw the potential of the additional income, and then over the last 20 years, sort of built my portfolio up when opportunities have come up.
I mean, it sounds pretty easy.
Not that
straightforward.
easy. There's a few issues on the way and a lot of hard work, but
yeah, for sure. And I guess a lot of this is related to the COVID and the impact that COVID's had on the UK specifically. So I'd love to kind of dive into that a little bit and I guess learn a little bit about how COVID's impacted your rental business. But I guess before we kind of jump into that, what was your kind of initial goal when you were getting started with rental property business? And I guess your long-term goal, how did you kind of see that as a business that you wanted to grow and scale over time?
The initial properties, basically, I wanted to have an additional income that potentially would subsidize my normal job that I do full time. So, and obviously a pension. Seen a few people with pensions over the time, and when it comes to the point where they actually need to get it out, it wasn't what they were expecting, and they couldn't do what they wished. So I was looking for a better way for me and my family for the future to basically have something gradually, and then at the time where we retired, to basically have a pot that we could call on.
Yeah, fair enough. Actually, that's a big reason why a lot of people do it. I've spoken to at least the pension's no longer the thing that you rely on for security, safety, and long-term kind of longevity as well. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that, particularly in the UK, and the US is the same, and New Zealand's the same. Yeah, it seems to be something that people are a bit more, I guess, intentional about trying to build that wealth or that kind of income that they can survive off later on in life. Super interesting. Yeah, I'd love to know how has, I guess, COVID impacted your business specifically. I know we spoke just before we jumped on this call about some of the tenants that you're currently dealing with. So I'd love to know, yeah, how has COVID kind of impacted? Because I know that it's been super impactful in the UK specifically. So yeah, I'd love to kind of learn a little bit more about that and how you've managed that and kind of move past that as well.
So obviously it's impacted everyone around the world. For myself, I've not been able to do as much maintenance as I normally do. I found it harder to get access to the properties. I've been lucky enough that probably less than 10% of my tenants have had issues. So I've not had much financial issues with regards to lack of income, lost jobs, etc. My portfolio is mainly universal credit. So obviously that covers the majority. There is a bit of a downfall on a few of my working tenants, but luckily one subsidises the other. So I've been lucky on that side of things.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of, I guess, your tenants themselves, have they, because I know there's been a lot of job losses, maybe not in your case, but how have you found that COVID's impacted them specifically? I guess it's been quite a big emotional trauma for a lot of the tenants too. So how's that kind of like, what's the result been of that in terms of how or your particular relationship with those tenants? Has that been impacted quite a lot?
Yeah, they're very anxious.
Mm,
They don't know what the situation is. A few feel that they're stuck in jobs that they don't want to be in necessarily, although they're fortunate enough. Few health issues, so some of them are concerned about relatives, etc. Payments, so the ones that have gone into arrears, they're concerned about how they're going to pay. So I've done a payment plan over a year, which has sort of helped them recover where they need to be. And if they've had any issues, then I've sort of discussed it and said, come to me rather than create additional stress. Because I think everyone at the moment feels confined in their own little world. And it's hard to actually see further than COVID at the moment, unfortunately.
what would your advice be to someone who is currently going through the same sort of issues, specifically a landlord? What would your advice be to them to help them kind of maintain a good relationship with the tenants and just, I guess, wear out the storm as we kind of go through this?
I mean, with regards to everything I've got, what I've been doing is actually using the software. When tenants have paid an additional payment, a lot of the times they're anxious and they go in, first thing they say is, how much more do I owe? So I've been using a couple of the reports and messaging it to them as soon as their payments go in, and they're actually feeling a lot happier because they know where they are, they're not anxious. And the other tenants that are stressed with regards to general maintenance issues or people, gas safeties, etc., I've just tried to arrange it that the people I use, they're the first call in the morning, so it minimises the impact of seeing other people prior to them, and just trying to work with them. A few issues with regards to a few delays on repairs, but I just have to explain to the tenants that at the moment trying to get tradesmen is pretty difficult.
For sure.
Most of them are understanding. It's just trying to talk and communication really more than anything.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most important part, right? Is definitely keeping the communication strong and open. I've seen cases of landlords where they've kind of shut off, and also the tenants have shut off, and they're just not a good end result. It makes everyone's life very stressful. So yeah, super interesting to kind of hear about that. I'd love to dive into, I guess, a bit more of the financial sides of running a rental business. So there's an initiative coming up called Making Tax Digital. It's coming in 2023. Basically, an initiative that requires all landlords to file taxes through a digital platform. So this is something that we're really working on and working with a lot of our users on. I guess a few questions around that specifically. They might not be slightly kind of unrelated slightly, but I'd love to know from your perspective, how important is it to engage an accountant or a financial advisor or someone who's good with that kind of area of the business to help you scale or manage your business as you're kind of growing over time?
Well, since I've sort of changed accountant within the last year, which is sort of why I came onto the software, because my old accountant was old school, liked a spreadsheet. So I sort of moved across. I've actually given my accountant my second logon. So it means that what I can do is I can input all my information, and periodically he might go in and just do a quick 5-minute check and make sure that I'm putting capital expenses, etc. in. It's making it a lot easier to discuss things, because obviously you can log in and say, well, actually, yeah, you can do that, or reporting. So once I get my P60 from work, I'm ready for year end.
Yeah.
And normally I leave it till December.
Yeah.
So I'm about 7 months ahead of where I normally am. Yeah. And I actually spoke to my accountant the other day and said, I've got everything into the software. As I use the software, basically, if I get a receipt, I go and scan it instantly. So it means it's real time. Everything is real time, mileage, etc. As soon as I get on the drive, put it in, I'm dusted for the day, and I don't have to think of I'll wait for Friday and then do it, or a weekend job where you're on catch up. Scan it in at the point in time, and you're done dusted.
Yeah. So what made you
So,
decide to choose, I guess, Landlord Studio over other software like maybe QuickBooks or Xero or other accounting software? Because I'd imagine from the accountant's point of view, they'd be quite used to those specific types of tools. So they'd be suggesting those. So I guess what was the decision making around that?
um, I sort of chose it before I went to my accountant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't. I historically looked at Property Buddy a couple of years ago, when I got my own family, so first child. Suddenly time disappeared, and so I started looking at apps. And then about a year ago, I went on to a property forum in the UK, put on there who uses what software, a couple of suggestions. So trialed a couple of them, just temporary inputting each one for a month, and then decided on Landlord Studio, and then implemented it as a bit of a task to put last year's in, but it paid off and it's a lot easier to use now.
Yeah, interesting. Have you kind of explored other tools at all, or were you quite set on like, I'm going to use this because I've now experienced it and I've done a bit of research around it? Yeah, it's just interested to see if you've kind of explored other tools for managing your rental
Yeah, I
business.
did download, is it Zero?
Xero, yeah, yeah.
Downloaded that, but I didn't think it was fit for what I wanted. So for me, I'm bad with receipts, I'm bad with documents, I'm bad with general admin. I can do the manual jobs and I
Yeah.
can manage the properties okay, but trying to keep on top of the paperwork was getting on top of me. So basically I was looking to something where I could scan the documents in, put them against a property, and then year on year have reminders of when I needed something doing.
Yeah.
So for me, a property application software was more important than the financial side. Obviously the reporting side from the software is exactly what I need. The outputs can be manipulated, and if I run a report at any point in time, I can see where I am, and I'm actually using it for future projections. And since I've used the software, I've probably implemented rent increases across 90% of my portfolio.
Oh, wow.
Just looking at what the costs were, profit and loss, I wasn't making enough. So I actually worked out I was making on one property £14 a month. So
Oh,
I
wow.
actually have bought all the properties up over the last year to the local housing allowance that we have in the UK. And obviously that's increased the income from the properties massively. And without the software, I probably wouldn't have thought about it. So it's sort of pushing me to where I needed to be, rather than the easy life, more of a business view.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think potentially that's what a lot of real estate investors kind of discover over time. Because I think a lot of people will invest in real estate to, build some equity in something that is, will have capital gain over time, but also from a cash flow perspective, it can cover mortgage repayments, etc. But yeah, it's interesting when real estate investors come to that point where they can actually see the potential to actually cash flow and create income as well. So there's obviously different reasons why people get into it, but it's interesting to kind of hear that kind of light bulb moment when somebody discovers something that will actually help their business grow, that they might not have had before. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Sometimes without the expenses, you see the income and you think that's going to be the income coming in, but what you forget is the insurance, any taxes, any general repairs. 10 quid here or there suddenly adds up to a few thousand over the years. And actually it also is helping when I'm looking at properties such as boilers. I've got one property that was costing me £100 every 3-4 months. It's probably cheaper me replacing the boiler.
Yeah.
So it sort of helps me look at different expenses that are coming up for certain properties and just seeing whether it's actually viable just to make a big change to save myself money going forward.
Yeah, for sure. What's been an example of like a radical change that you've made in your business from using the software that you might have discovered over time?
More time.
Yeah. Yeah.
More personal time. I'm spending more time with my family.
Yeah.
Historically, it was just a case of when tenants used to ask for what payments they'd made, it took me a couple hours to go through bank statements and make sure. It's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
And time is a lot easier. It's like I can sit waiting in the car with my missus, and I'll just check my bank account, and if a payment's come in, one click of a button, it's logged, done, dusted. Forget about that tenant for the next month.
Yeah, perfect. Feeds nicely into my one of my last questions is, I guess, how important do you feel software is for running a rental business, particularly once you start scaling up and growing it over time?
Yeah, I think once you get past a few, maybe, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of the people on the forums, and there's a few that have one. I think it's fine if you do it as a sideline or as a main business. I think it can upscale. You can also use it. So I use it for my parents. So I actually log some of their information, and then what I can do is their tax returns. So it means that I can control other information if needs be. And it just makes it easier for going forward with the accountants. And obviously, with regards to my accountant, they, I think, are in discussion with yourselves. They're quite keen on the returns, the quarterly returns that are coming up. And I think they're looking to actually implement it within their business potentially. Hopefully I might get a job from it. But yeah, it's one of them that I think for ease of use, the software has helped my business going forward a lot. And it's helped me to increase my income as well.
Yeah, we'll be sure to speak with them and hand in the resume.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. And I guess one of my final questions is, what's 2021 like for you this year? What's your kind of goals for this year and the next few?
I'm downscaling one of my properties I'm selling currently, just taking advantage of the stamp duty to try and offload it, to basically give the rest of my property portfolio more security, just because obviously this has highlighted a few issues. So I need to make sure the business is where I need to be, and hopefully enjoy some holidays at some point.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been great to talk to you today, Andrew. I'll close up now, and yeah, really appreciate you coming on today and just kind of sharing a little bit of insight and some advice for everyone listening in today. Hope everyone's having a great day, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode today. Appreciate you coming on today, Andrew, and we will look forward to speaking to you soon.